All right, we're back in it. After a 16-day hiatus, um, we some busy guys going around here, but we're back in the saddle. One shining recap show, January 28th, 2026. Um, an insane year. Just a stat to show some context for the wildness of this college basketball season. I don't have the exact stat, but I believe this is like I saw like the combined losses of the AP top 10 this week is the least amount of combined losses of the AP top 10 in like 30 years. I believe is what the stat was.
Well, it's
Something
strong at
along
the
those
top,
lines.
yeah, because you got
Yeah.
teams with only one loss, and then you got Gonzaga with one loss, and it was by 40. Got Nebraska with only one loss, it was to Michigan, and UConn only one loss, it was to Arizona, who was number one in the country. So, yeah, it's strong at the top.
Let me I'm gonna go retweet this stuff before we get into it. But Jacob, how you doing tonight, my friend?
All right. Doing
Just
okay.
all right.
Yeah, just all right.
It's just all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a disappointing last couple games for the Boilermakers.
It's been the week from hell to be a Purdue fan. The last
Jacob,
week.
this is the most somber I've ever heard you sound. Like Jacob, say like one thing you're happy about. Like just give us some positive, Jacob.
Uh, ETSU's number one in the SoCon. Beat Chattanooga last week.
There you go. Matt, how you doing tonight, my friend? Been a couple weeks. You've been enjoying all the hoops action and the Patriots going to the Super Bowl and everything else.
Of course, yes, and I think I might try to go to the game. So,
Really?
yes, this is the first time they've played in one that I can financially go, that I can afford to go. So, yeah, figure why not, you know? So, we'll see.
I,
Haven't decided yet, but yeah.
I'm in the same boat where like I was seriously like as of like a month ago like considering I was like because I'm in the same boat like this first time Patriots have made it and I'm like I'm an adult now like I have money like I could find a way to make this work and then my car's motor blew up and bought a new truck so unfortunately that took away from whatever rainy day Super Bowl fund I had sitting around that probably killed that opportunity for me.
Hey, just go to the next one. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hey, you know what my favorite ring is?
yeah,
The next one.
of course. Yeah, so why not go to 61 or 62 or 63? Yeah, so it's happening
Uh,
again.
so in the college basketball world, to start off the night, there is the last couple weeks storylines, games. Like I think we all agree there's no other place to start than the Charles Bediako clown show of the last couple weeks. Um, wow, what is so? Any, I assume anybody watching this knows what's going on with Charles Bediako in that situation. But for anybody who is not aware, um, we'll give some background that uh, the NCAA has allowed G leaguers, or this goes back further actually. The NCAA has allowed uh, players who played professional basketball overseas to come and play college basketball. And we have plenty of those players in the game today. Pretty much Illinois' entire roster is comprised of those players. So, so that's a thing. This turned into now G Leaguers have been allowed to play college basketball this year and have been granted eligibility when they seek it. The caveat to that is players who have not signed an NBA contract and have not, therefore, have not played in an NBA game are granted eligibility. we spoke about the James Najee situation a couple weeks ago, where James Najee was an NBA draft pick, but big distinction, because a lot of people are using James Najee as some sort of a parallel to this Bediako situation. It's not the same situation at all. James Najee never signed an NBA contract, never stepped foot on an NBA floor. He was an NBA draft pick, played in the G League, did not sign an NBA contract. So fast forward to the situation we have now, where we have Charles Bediako, a guy who has signed not one, not two, but 3 NBA contracts, who left college basketball to pursue the NBA 3 years ago. He played on the Brandon Miller Alabama team. This is a long time ago, 3 years. Yeah, like Brandon Miller's about to coming up on to be eligible for a rookie extension. And that's how long ago we're talking. And this guy left college basketball after that. The last college basketball he played in was the San Diego State victory over Alabama in the Sweet 16 in 2023. So he's played in the G League. He signed 3 NBA contracts. He has not played in an NBA game, but has signed contracts at 3 different NBA teams. And Charles decided that he wanted to come back and play college basketball again, or pursue his degree, as some would put it, which is hilarious. But so applied for eligibility, was denied eligibility by the NCAA, because the NCAA is like, nope, this is a bridge too far for us. So go from there, and Alabama and Charles Bediako get a temporary restraining order from a judge that is a 6-figure donor to the University of Alabama, allowing him eligibility to play. And he's played the last 2 games now. Played Saturday against Tennessee, played yesterday against Missouri. As of today, 6-figure Alabama donor judge has recused himself from the case at the request of the NCAA. Conveniently, that he recuses himself. Guess who picks this case up? Guess what judge picks this case up? Alabama grad is the new judge in this case. So yeah, just craziness. Yeah, I mean, this is the ramifications of this. Like, this could blow the entire sport up. Like, this is bad. Obviously, the NCAA never wanted it to get to this point, and the NCAA has caught some heat in this. Yes. Have they been a little too stringent with what they've allowed? Yes. And part of the problem here is that the NCAA doesn't want to just get sued every single time they rule a player ineligible. They don't want to be going through litigation, and so they gave some liberties, and now we've arrived at this situation where we have a guy who left college basketball 3 years ago, signed 3 NBA contracts, is now back playing college basketball because a 6-figure donor to the University of Alabama gave them a temporary restraining order to allow them to play. So yeah, I've been long-winded in my explanation here. I just want to say, of all things I've heard people say the last week that this story's been a thing, I cannot take one more person saying, well, can you blame Nate Oates? The rules allow this. That this is not, the NCAA told him no. So you cannot use, well, it's within the rules as an excuse for this. He was told no by the NCAA, and Alabama clearly got a temporary restraining order from a judge that, I'm sorry, there's just no way you can say this man was an impartial ruler in this case. And so now we've arrived just complete, the hearing was supposed to be Tuesday, and then the hearing was actually delayed because Alabama filed for a delay because of snow. It didn't snow, by the way. I live in the state of Alabama. It did not snow. So, but they got this hearing delayed 10 days because of snow. So, that's where we're at now. Guys who have signed 3 NBA contracts are playing in college basketball games, and it's happened twice since we last came to you. So yeah, it's a sad state of affairs in the sport. I know it's pretty similar to what's going on in college football with Trinidad Chambliss. At the same time, I don't think the Trinidad Chambliss situation is as egregious as this one, nor do I think it's as cut and dry where like Trinidad Chambliss didn't sign an NFL contract and leave college football for 3 years and come back and try to play. So like I feel like the Chambliss situation isn't the greatest analogy here, but you do have the fact that like I think it's similar there where it's like a judge with ties to Ole Miss is litigating that case to try to get Chambliss eligibility. But yeah, I think it's utterly ridiculous that we need to talk about this. It's a black eye to the sport. The ramifications from this can be a death blow to the sport. I think Congress needs to step in and grant college athletics like antitrust exemptions. That's what we've heard about a lot. And like that feels like from my research into this that like collective bargaining and antitrust exemptions are probably the way that we actually get college sports with enforceable rules back. But yeah, that's where we are. I've been rambling for 10 minutes about this. So you guys have the floor, but this is the story in the sport
I think
and has to be discussed.
I think with this case, I really think the NCAA should just flat out say, Alabama, you're not making the NCAA tournament. Like straight up, you're banned from the NCAA tournament while Charles Bediako is playing for you. Like, not only that, other teams should refuse to play them. Like, with all these G League players, just refuse to play teams with like other teams. I think the coaches need to step up and say no more, none of this BS. That's my opinion on it.
Well, there's certainly a lot in all of that. I think the Chambliss stuff and this are kind of totally different, and I do think the Chambliss stuff is more impactful than this could be, because you could be talking about the difference between Ole Miss as a college football playoff contender and them going to the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
You're saying more impactful as in the impact on the team, not the impact on the precedent for the sport as a whole.
No, I do think it has. I mean, because of the guy, how many years of college football are we going to give this guy as opposed to in this situation? So this is very complicated and complex. It's gotten very polarizing. I do not think this would be as polarizing of an issue as if this were happening at Bowling Green than Alabama. I think that Nate Oates is already a polarizing coach to begin with, because he is an undeniably great basketball coach, but he is horrible at handling any press engagements. Anytime he has to explain himself for a decision, that is not his strong suit.
Does any coach in sports yada yada better than or not? I shouldn't say better, but just do more yada yada anytime they have to answer any tough questions than Nate Oates.
It's kind of crazy. So and I like Nate Oates. I think he's a good coach, but he's on the record as being against this before, which I think is getting him into hot water with some of these other coaches. Basically, I think as we've talked about outside of this before, gonna have the old guard of coaches who kind of determines how everyone's gonna look to them as if okay, what are Tom Izzo, Dan Hurley, Bill Self, what are these guys doing? And if they're not doing it, if they're not going to take a swing at this, or if they don't want any part of this, we should probably just follow their lead and go away from this. And Nate Oates has not. I think it's pissed off a lot of coaches. I think the complication is that this is an NCAA issue. This is not a Nate Oates issue. Nate Oates has basically flipped off the NCAA and told them, I can do what I want, and it's your job to stop me. And to this point, they have not stopped him outside of being we really don't think you should do this, and this is our first line of defense. Well, he broke the first line. Now they're going to have to get really creative along the lines of
I have to butt in because the NCAA per this TRO cannot directly penalize Nate Oates and Alabama for this, and that is in the TRO.
No, correct. Yes,
So-
they can't. But they can try to create some precedent from this. First of all, I don't think the NCAA wants to get involved. I don't think they want to do this. I think the antitrust stuff is what they've been fighting for years. It's a huge conversation in the legal community that this has always been the end game for the NCAA, and whatever gets them to that point the fastest is what they want. I think that and collective bargaining are two kind of separate entities, but right now, yeah, I mean, this is basically Nate Oates, like, telling them, watch me. I'm just going to break the rules that you set, and here's my temporary restraining order. And yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot because I do think a lot of, like, we were joking after the Najee stuff where people were like, oh my gosh, this is so horrible. Like, by the way, Jamie Dixon, please do this for TCU or something. Like, all the fans are like, we would love this if we could afford this or if we could have this luxury.
Jamie Dixon just picked up a technical, by the way. Like,
oh, really?
So, like, as you said that.
Yeah, shout out TCU there. But no, yeah, I think it's just a seriously complicated matter. It should not be happening. But there's so much that the NCAA has done wrong that has kind of led on to this debacle. And, you know, conflicts of interest happen all the time in these legal proceedings because that's just what college sports is and has been for decades now. This is not a new thing, and it's very difficult. And this, like, the judge obviously recused himself. It's unclear. You have to prove that they have actual financial tie, like follow the money kind of thing.
Well, he's listed on Alabama's website as a six-figure donor.
Yeah, so it's unclear as to whether where did his donations go to? Like where were they set to? And six figures is not to sound like kind of crass, but it is not very big in the donation community in college athletics these days. I mean, I think it was not going to get your name on a building.
It was the $300,000 to $500,000 range is where they had him listed, I believe.
But yeah, I think it's not good for the sport. It's not a good thing. It's something that has kind of put a further stain on the way things are in the current state of college athletics. But again, there's no defined guidelines. All it takes is it's just the NCAA stepping in whenever they want and deeming things like good or yay or nay kind of thing, and then the legal system can swoop in anytime, overrule them. So yeah, I mean, we can talk about NCAA like malfeasance. I can go the whole day about this stuff, but like on the court, it's helping Bama. He's a problem, and they have not defended the upgrade from him to Aiden Sherrill is huge. It's a totally different team for them when he's out there. So on the court, it's going to be impactful. It's definitely going to help Bama more than not. But it's not a great thing for the sport, and I mean everyone's got their opinion on it, but the fact of the matter is this lies at the feet of the NCAA, and they're the ones who are going to have to figure this out.
So Jacob brought up the idea, and I think it if you want the NCAA to take action on this, and their hands are kind of tied in this situation. I think Mark Pope said it, and Jacob just said it, but Mark Pope said it last week that the NCAA's best and only course of action other than fighting this thing in court right now, might genuinely be to just leave Alabama out of the NCAA tournament. Do they have any other course of act? Because they can't suspend him or go after Alabama or go after Nate Oates because of how this TRO is worded. But the NCAA has complete say over who goes to the NCAA tournament and what 68 teams are playing. And is that because the more I've thought about it, and I'm genuinely bias removed from this situation. Obviously, I hate Alabama. I'm not pretending I don't, but if we're looking at this from the perspective of, okay, like, this is the situation the NCAA is in. They're fighting the thing in court, but Charles Bediako is playing basketball games right now. Does the NCAA on Selection Sunday just leave Alabama out of the NCAA tournament? And in their eyes, like they are using a player that they do not view should be playing college basketball. And as I don't think there's any, like, they can leave teams out of the end, like, they own the NCAA tournament. So I don't think there's that could be viewed as like a punishment. They can just be like, this is our playground, and we don't like what you did, so you're not going to the NCAA tournament. I mean, like, the state of Florida tried to sue the college football playoff for leaving Florida State out of the college football playoff a couple years ago. And like, obviously that went nowhere, because at the end of the day, they're like, this is our tournament. Like, this is our property. We can choose whatever teams we want to go to this for whatever reason. So, like, to me, and Matt, like, you would know more about like the legalities, but like, I'm sure Alabama would try to fight that. But like, what are they going to get a TRO to get placed in the NCAA tournament? Honestly, like, I feel like that's the NCAA's course of action here. Is that if they really want to make a statement like, hey, don't fuck with me, or it's going to go bad for you, then Selection Sunday, the bracket comes out and Alabama's not in the bracket and they're not going to the NCAA tournament. That feels like the NCAA's only option, the way they've been hamstrung by this thing.
I don't think that's an option for them at all. I don't think they. I mean, the difference between the college football playoff and the NCAA, the college football playoff is independent of the NCAA, so they're their own separate entity. They do not answer to the NCAA. The NCAA tournament is different. There's more of a criteria. The selection criteria is much clearer, much more defined. With the exception of North Carolina a year ago, it's pretty cut and dry for everyone. I mean, they make like legitimate bracketology that, Joe Lunardi has predicted the field of 68 before. It's a little more cut and dry. The NCAA cannot. I think what's more likely, I think it's on the table for the NCAA to say, hey, whatever you do, whatever your tournament success is, we're going to vacate it if this guy plays. They can go back and do that retroactively, which they've done several times before. But I don't think it's an option for them to just, first of all, they don't have to. The NCAA doesn't have to technically say, like, we're going to just leave you out of the tournament. There's a selection committee that they can just say, we don't think you should be in, or we're not putting you in the field, which would be ludicrous. But and then what do you do if they win a conference? Like, if they win the SEC tournament, they're an automatic qualifier. You can't, like, not have them in the field. So I think it's more likely, which is what the NCAA has done in the past. I think it's more likely you'll see the NCAA be like, yeah, this guy was ineligible by our ruling. We're going to vacate. Whatever wins you picked up with this guy, and any NCAA tournament wins, they will not. They'll be vacated in the future. But no, they get ripped apart in court if they just said, like, yeah, you're not going.
But
so
they can just be like,
it wouldn't work.
They can just be like, this is our property. Like, they control what teams play, what 68 teams go and play in the tournament, and what teams don't.
They could. I mean, they legitimately could go that course of action.
Make them
I'm sure that would satisfy a lot of people. But they would lose in court. They could do that, but they would lose, and it would create a horrible precedent of, like, why we're leaving this team out of the NCAA tournament because of this. Like, well, you knew Louisville was up to no good when they won the national championship, and you let them in anyway, and they won. So, and then you had to go back and vacate that. That's happened several times over the course of history, where you see, like, in the record books, like Calipari's was like that UMass Final Four run. They knew at the time.
This reminds me, like,
benefits going on, and they still allowed that stuff to happen.
I feel like this is slightly different.
This reminds me, though, and like, this is a different situation. Like, but it's the premise of like ineligible players, like issues and all this. And like there was a legitimate discussion. The closest precedent I can think is back to 2013, 2014, when Jameis Winston was under investigation for rape by the Tallahassee Police Department, and there was legitimate discussion of Florida State not going to play for the national championship until like because of Jameis Winston's legal case being up in the air. And obviously we know that was one of the most corrupt. Like the Tallahassee Police Department completed a rape investigation within a week and cleared Jameis Winston, and they went on and won the national championship. And but that was a legitimate discussion point at that time. Was like if this is still up in the air, does Florida State go and play for a national championship? And funny that this is the second time Florida State football has been referenced in this discussion. But yeah, like that's the closest like precedent to something like this, and like that I can think of. And I don't remember at the time anybody like arguing if that was like a legal issue or anything, like, or that was not within the NCAA's rights to do that.
No, the NCAA had no they had no say in that situation. They don't insert themselves into legal matters, especially that of something as like the NCAA is the last arbiter in those situations. You got local police involved, you got the university involved, you got the football team itself involved.
Well, what I'm saying is though, like there was
disciplinary action before.
There was talk of them not being in the national, like them not putting them in the national championship.
Sure, I mean,
due to what happened
with
there. Like,
Jameis Winston and Cam Newton. There were those discussions that were kind of leading up. Cam had that up before the SEC championship game that year. Jameis had that. Those are just separate NCAA issues entirely. This situation, the problem is all the NCAA has to do is declare him ineligible, and then they can say, like, okay, like, you can play out these games.
Which they already did declare him ineligible.
Yes, and then they can say that those games that he played in or NCAA tournament games he played in, will ultimately be vacated. They have it within their rights to do it that way. It would just be an unprecedented scene for them to just be like, okay, well, you're out. You're not going to the NCAA tournament. I think it's more than fair if they want to say, if the temporary restraining order ends for any reason and they decide, hey, we are only going to judge you based on the games that this guy didn't play in, and treat it that kind of way. That's within their rights to do. They could put Alabama in the field based on their body of work without him. They would still make the field, but their seeding would be dramatically affected. So I don't see a situation where they step in and they say, you're not going. I don't think that is on the table. I think Greg Sankey would threaten secession from the NCAA itself. I do not think that will. I don't think that's on the table for them.
The Greg Sankey issue is like, and it's the issue of like, this just goes to show, and it's, at like, I've said it for a long time, and people say it that like, how much Birmingham, being the SEC office, like it loves Alabama, and like, and people just say, oh, it's sour grapes from Auburn fans and Tennessee fans and rivals. And it's the fact that Greg Sankey and the SEC have done nothing and said nothing and taken no action about this. They're fucking spineless. The SEC is a fucking joke of a conference. Greg Sankey is a fucking joke of a commissioner. And this is a league with like just no fucking morals or balls. And there's not a like there is no other conference in the country that allows one singular school to dictate the entire conference and get away with murder and whatever they want more than the SEC does with Alabama. So Greg Sankey is a fucking coward. He's a fucking loser. We miss Mike Slive, but that's the SEC and Greg Sankey issue. Glad you brought it up so I could say my piece about that.
Yeah, I think that this is a very slippery slope that a lot of conference commissioners I don't think would touch because they answer to the ADs first and foremost. The governing bodies of the conference answer to, so like in a way, Greg Byrne is Greg Sankey's boss one way or another. Now, I think that what you're going to see is that a lot of these ADs are not going to speak out against this because there's an off chance that their coach or their program could see an avenue to take advantage of this in the future if they tried, if there was any kind of ruling on
a lot of coaches have strongly spoken out against this stuff. Shout out to Todd Golden, by the way. I think Todd Golden
that was awesome. That was awesome. I think that Greg Sankey's not going to touch it. I don't think you'll hear him comment on it unless he's ultimately like ordered to. If the rest of the SEC ADs are like, yeah, we're not doing this. I think that's when you could see like Greg Sankey's arm twisted. But yeah, ultimately, I think this is not going to be settled at the conference kind of level. This is going to be something that they're, like Greg Sankey's probably telling himself, if you asked him for public comment, he would probably say the NCAA has already released a statement. This is an NCAA matter. They're handling this. This is not something we're going to address at the conference level. So, yeah, I think that he's going to get dragged for this. And, at times, rightly so. You're the commissioner of the biggest conference in college sports. So, yeah, you're kind of going to be front facing on a lot of this. And, for him to be silent on this issue, I think just says that the ADs are not ready to fight this yet, or at least not enough of them are. So, yeah, I don't think this is going to be a Greg Sankey issue. This is ultimately going to come down to the NCAA and what they end up ruling after this. But to answer your initial question, no, I don't see that. You'll see Bama in the tournament. You'll see Bama in the SEC tournament. That's an action that can be taken. The SEC ADs could come together and say, like, you're not participating in the SEC tournament. You can participate in the NCAA tournament because you just can because their hands are tied here, but you're not participating in ours.
If fucking South Carolina did the same thing, I guarantee you that's what would happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you would be stupid to say that there's not different standards for some of these institutions. I do think that if this were a South Carolina or Vandy, they would probably be treated differently than if Bama or Florida or Tennessee tried to do this. They would probably come down a bit harder on them. But the whole situation's a mess. The whole situation is not good for the sport. It's not good for the NCAA. I think that in their eyes, it might be good because it gets them closer to the antitrust stuff that they really want. But no, it's terrible for the sport. I mean, this was almost a thing in college football where Shamar Stewart got drafted by the Bengals, and then he was kind of like, I don't want to be here. I'm going to go back to A&M. And they're like, the fuck you are? They're like, you're not going anywhere. Like, you're either like you're going to the Bengals or you're like getting redrafted here. You're not going back. So, it just kind of goes to show you where those two different sports are at right now. You don't see this in baseball, certainly, but I think because the money in college football and college basketball has gotten so big in the players' pot, I think now you're just seeing this as like this is a financial incentive for Charles Bediako to do this over playing in the G League. He'll probably make more money playing at Bama than he would in the G League. So
I just wonder about totally Charles Bediako too.
Decision.
Since you bring it up, and it's like, dude, do you have any fucking pride? Like, is Charles Bediako not just fucking embarrassed by this? Of how much of a fucking loser he looks like for doing this?
Well, I mean, that's a whole separate part of the discussion. And the same thing for Nate Oates. It's kind of one of those things where, like, Nate Oates is job secure. Nate Oates is not, like, on the hot seat here at Bama. Like, and his team's good. They're not, like, national champion good. And I still don't think they are with Charles Bediako. But, yeah, I do think there's an element of, like, I'm sure Charles Bediako amongst his peers is kind of being looked at and being frowned upon as, like, you were playing professional basketball. And professional basketball is not the same as, like, professional baseball where you have thousands of guys who are playing at multiple levels. Professional football, there are multiple, just more roster spots, more teams. And yeah, in this, I mean, you know, he was playing professional basketball, and there aren't that many professional basketball spots. And yeah, I don't know what this decision would be driven by unless it was financial, that he was getting more money from Alabama than he would have been playing professionally. So I think that's where this comes from. This is all financially driven. He's probably getting a very, very good sum of money, probably multiplying by tenfold what he would be making in the G League, what he would be making in Europe. You know, so yeah, it's one of those. I'm sure that the Bama people will try and justify it as like, he was here, he still has eligibility. You know, this is just like him taking a sabbatical almost, or a couple gap years and coming back to the program. When obviously that's not the case, but that's how they'll justify it as. And I would imagine that he's getting. I mean, this is just one of the unintended consequences of NIL, and I'm sure that he would go if Georgia was offering more money than Bama. He'd probably be at Georgia. But here we are. So that's a situation. And yeah, this is really only the beginning of that. This is going to drag, and really any time that Bama plays or wins a big game, and if he plays well, which he has, he played really well against Missouri in only like 18 minutes of time. He put up a hell of a stat line. So he's probably going to contribute at a pretty high level for them. And they don't need him to do much. Like, he's probably right now the third best player on their team. But yeah, it's going to get uglier. And, you know, I do think that vacating games in the future is on the table. But I definitely don't think that them just being left out of the NCAA tournament is.
Yeah, it sucks. Like you said, like, this sucks. The fact that we have all these great games to talk about, and we spent the first 40 minutes of this podcast discussing this. It sucks. It's terrible. Nobody likes it. Like, this is where our sport is at. But unfortunately, like, this is the kind of stuff that college sports are swamped in. And, you know, like we alluded to, it really seems like the federal intervention and antitrust stuff and collective bargaining might be the what it's going to take to solve all this. Maybe the only time in my life I'm like, yes, I want the government to get involved in this, but that's where we're at.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, and yeah, but remember, I mean, to anyone who, just be mad at this is an NCAA issue first, and then certainly take your shots at Nate Oates and Bama after. But yeah, so we'll see what happens.
I don't agree with that, but to each their own. But yeah, like I said, we're about 40 minutes in, so we'll start hitting some of these games. So let's. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to mention just one thing. First game, talk about Alabama lost to Tennessee on Saturday.
Yes.
And Tennessee's social media had the biggest own of a tweet after the game.
Yeah, they tweeted at the G League team that Charles Bediako played for. You're next.
Yeah, the Delaware Bluecoats. Yeah,
that's where Janai Brum is these days.
Yep, indeed he is. So we got Yeah, you guys want to talk some games?
Mhm.
Well, you guys want to start in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and what we watched last night, because hell of a game, and basically two completely different games we watched between the first half and the second half of that game. Um, for reference, there were 98 total points in the first half, and there were 49 total points in the second half of last night's game between Nebraska and Michigan. But the Cornhuskers finally fall from the ranks of the unbeaten. They were without Rink Mass last night, who have to think like very well could have been a different game if Rink Mass is in there last night. He wasn't, but Nebraska was awesome in this game. Like Nebraska led majority of this game and gave it away at the end. But yeah, Michigan in the end wins 75-72. Um, great, like it have obviously like great win for Michigan, but it's kind of what we expect from Michigan. I think even in a loss, this is more about Indiana than it's about Michigan because you know people have been asking the questions about Nebraska, like is this Fugaze, like is this team actually good? And I think any questions people had about Nebraska, even in a loss last night, they emphatically answered. Like short rink mass to go to Ann Arbor middle of the week and damn near win that thing, lead most of the game. Insane. It like hat tip to Fred Hoiberg in Nebraska and what they've built. Jamarcus Lawrence came out in this game and had 18 points in the first 10 minutes and then only finished with 20. He pretty much just came out firing in this game, but Michigan was able to lock him down the rest of the game. And yeah, Michigan's able to get the job done here. Nebraska forced 19 Michigan turnovers last night, and that's really what kept them in this game. But ultimately, obviously, it was the effort on the glass that won it for Michigan. A 35-23 rebounding advantage. I'd say that ultimately tipped the scales there, along with Michigan shot 23 free throws to Nebraska's 4. um, So definitely a home whistle there last night. But yeah, Michigan shot it terribly in this game. But they're able to get the job done, protect home court, get the win over Nebraska. But yeah, like I said, to me, this is more about Nebraska than it was Michigan. And yeah, and me and Jacob had a show in December where there wasn't a lot to talk about, and we spent about half a show talking about Nebraska before they really landed on the national radar. And yeah, you have to just be super like Fred Hoiberg is it even a competition for National Coach of the Year right now? It feels like it's Fred Hoiberg and then a sizable gap to wherever you want to go next. But I mean, it feels like it would have to be obviously Tommy Lloyd, and what Arizona's doing has to be in consideration there. But I feel like to this point it's got to be Hoiberg. But yeah, Michigan gets the job done. Like I said, that they were a 10.5 point favorite. Uh, did what they were supposed to do, won the game. But Nebraska is a legitimate Big Ten regular season championship contender and a legitimate Final Four contender after yesterday. And I don't know how anybody can argue otherwise, because that's one of the best teams in the country who we've seen mow down some really good teams this year in Michigan. And Nebraska went to their building and gave them absolutely everything they could handle, shorthanded with that being so. Yeah, just got to tip the hat to Nebraska, but that was a hell of a game. Like I said, complete tale of two halves. Michigan just played, locked it down defensively in the second half, uh, and was enough to get the job done. So, Michigan, Nebraska, Matt, I'll let you go first, and then we'll actually no, Jacob's the Big Ten guy. I gotta let him do the honors on this game. So we'll go Jacob then Matt.
I mean, Nebraska showed they are a team that's for real in this game, with two of their leading scorers out, not just Rink Mast, but also what's his name? I had it pulled up. Braden Frager was also out. He's been out the past couple games for Nebraska, so they were shorthanded against a Michigan team that's been kind of a well-oiled machine all year. And I mean, just an exciting game. Went down to the final minutes. Eventually, I think Nebraska ran out of gas. They committed a lot of silly fouls, and you had the refs making a lot of home calls as well. But yeah, I mean, Nebraska. What can be said that hasn't been already said thus far? Nebraska's just looked like they've met the challenge. So they are going to be a threat in the NCAA tournament, 100%.
First of all, question: do you think that Nebraska wins that game at home if they have it at home?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
I don't. Do you think so? Because I mean,
yeah, I think that was one of the takeaways that I took from that game. Is like, man, this is Michigan's winning this game. They're better. Michigan's better than Nebraska, but
Nebraska should have won that game last night. Like,
I think,
yeah, I'm sure they feel they should have.
And I mean, if Rink Mast is in that game, Nebraska also probably wins that game because I mean he's solidly been their second best player this year, and he gets ruled out right before the game, and yeah, they didn't miss a beat without him. Yeah, I mean you had to think if he was playing, there's a good chance Nebraska wins that thing too.
And then, has there ever been more pressure on a team to beat a 15 seed in the history of the NCAA tournament than Nebraska this coming year? Yeah,
maybe Purdue year
maybe
after.
Purdue, yeah, post FBU. But ultimately, that was a fun game for one. I just have to say that game. We're talking about the state of college athletics. That game should be like full front on ESPN, no questions asked. That game should not be
on the cock,
or should be leading on ESPN's airwaves. For some reason, it's not, and that was very frustrating. But yeah, ultimately, Nebraska's got a really tough stretch coming up. So I think that yes, they played an outstanding first half, and they really exposed Maya for Michigan. I mean, they were bad. Some of the Michigan bigs did not play their best game. Nebraska is not the most fun offensive team to watch in the world. Their Michigan State second half was like nails on a chalkboard. Last night they actually really kind of locked in offensively in the first half. I mean,
Jamarcus Lawrence couldn't.
Yeah.
I thought Jamarcus Lawrence was about to come out and go for 40. Like he had 18 in the first 10 minutes and finished with 20. Like credit to Dusty for the defensive adjustments they were able to make on him because it seemed like he was about to go for a 40 bomb.
But it seemed as if they were like, okay, well, we are going to do what Purdue did not do with Keem Wagler and just be like, yeah, this is not happening. And yeah, they cut that off in the second half. It was really slow, grinded down second half of that game. The amount of Michigan turnovers were hyper concerning. That was one where they've usually been relatively, not careless, but, with the ball, Cadeau's not a bad point guard, as we've talked about on here before. He's a good fit for that team. But yeah, that was pretty shocking out of them yesterday. I still think Michigan's better than them. If that were a best of seven, I still think Michigan beats them pretty good. As for where they stand in the rest of the Big Ten hierarchy, they have some big games coming up. So you're going to find out one way or another here just how legit Nebraska is. Another question for both of you: do you rank that game for them? If you were advocating for them for their seeding in the NCAA tournament, are you arguing that the fact that they beat Illinois at Illinois, or are you going to say that they should have beaten Michigan at Michigan? Is that a bigger result?
No, I think ultimately it's the wins over Michigan State and Illinois would be their biggest data points to this point.
Yeah.
But yes, that was I mean, but no, I'm not going to sit here and say I'll like if I'm making the case for them, like no, I'm going to argue
Yeah,
who they
I would
beat,
not
not
argue.
who they almost beat. But that for me personally, that game last night, like I walked away from that game last night being like, okay, this Nebraska team can go to a Final Four. Like they are that good. That like I
I
watched
don't
that
think they're
last
that
night.
good.
Like
I don't think they're that good. I'm not ready to go to that level with them. I think them and really the entire Big Ten as a whole, besides like Michigan State and Michigan, they are not an athletic team. Like they do not have athletic teams in the conference. Like just watching Houston play TCU now, like how in the hell would Nebraska beat that team? Like I can't think of a roadmap for them to be like how if they play 10 times, like I don't know how Nebraska beats Houston once. Like I don't see the roadmap for that happening. There are certainly other teams they match up better with, but against teams with really, really high level athletes, I think that's where it will kind of show up against them. Like I can see like it makes a lot of sense why they've done so well against Big Ten competition because a lot of these teams, and we'll obviously get to Purdue pretty soon here, but like we've talked about outside of this, that like Purdue's like perimeter defense is shockingly bad, despite Purdue being one of the better teams in the conference. Same with Indiana. Michigan State's a high level team who they beat athletic wise, but Michigan State can't really score. So I don't know. It's going to have to be extremely matchup driven for Nebraska, like how far they're going to go. Like, I would not be shocked if they were a team that did not make the second weekend if they ran into just a team full of athletes. Yeah, like it's on the table. So yeah, I'm not ready to say. I'm not ready to say any Big Ten team outside of Michigan maybe is Final Four level good. That's just kind of where like all of them have just some really big weaknesses and big flaws outside of Michigan that you can point to. But yeah, that's probably my biggest issue with Nebraska. Sometimes the offense gets really, really stale, and sometimes they just can be overwhelmed by just otherworldly athleticism that they don't have. So I think that is the biggest kind of weakness with them now. And, we have some more sample sizes that we can gather from because they're entering a really tough stretch of Big Ten play. So a lot of questions about them that have not been answered yet will be. And yeah, I think, great job by Fred Hoiberg. I still think Tommy Lloyd, if Arizona goes undefeated playing in the Big 12 and the schedule that they have, he should be
well, yeah.
coach of the year.
If Arizona runs the table, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm anticipating that not happening. I mean, like
Sure,
I'm not.
yeah.
That's not me doubting it. It's just like they're going to slip up multiple times in the Big 12. I assume. Like if they run the table in the Big 12, though, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
so yeah, I think it's a great job by Fred Hoiberg. I think it's one of those things like Fred Hoiberg's a really good coach. This has kind of come out of nowhere for sure. I think that's why so many people's first reaction is like, wow, I can't believe how well Nebraska did against Michigan. It just kind of goes to show you where the expectations of that program still kind of are. So, yeah, I think Nebraska is a team that, like, I do not think they are Final Four good as of now. And of all the teams ranked in the top 10, they would be like number one surefire. Like, yes, I could see a 7 or 10 seed or like a 6 seed or double digit seed taking them down. But we'll see. That's why they play the games.
Next one we'll move on to. We have to discuss from Monday. We had AJ versus Koa in Provo, and Arizona stayed undefeated, got the win over BYU. This is really one where I thought Arizona was going to slip up, and
well, they nearly did.
Yeah, I thought coming into this week after Monday and Tuesday that Miami of Ohio was going to be the last unbeaten standing. But they're not. Arizona's still standing with them. We know Nebraska fell last night, but yeah, AJ. So full stop. I don't know about you guys. I turned this thing off about 8 minutes to go.
Mm-hmm.
It was late. We were going to bed. I was like, "Yep, Arizona's up 16. Like they're above us all. Nope. looked up, saw the score. I was like, what the fuck happened?
I got the alert on my phone. Like I think I was playing on NCAA or something, and I looked down and I was like, BYU came back.
They did not come back as much as Arizona was point shaving. Did not make any sense. They were just literally giving the game away, and BYU refused to take it in the end.
I was quite disappointed, by the way. Just had to point out, because like I thought coming into this game, like I told you guys in the group chat, like I thought this was going to be like if you're a casual college basketball fan, this was going to be like hello AJ DeBansta moment. He was fucking horrible in this game.
Yeah.
He was atrocious. And yeah, that was disappointing. He's got the line right here. He was 24 points, but 11 of those were from the line. He was 6 of 24 from the field and 1 of 8 from 3. So yeah, I mean, he still put up 24, but he was fucking horrible in this game. I know, but it looked because I kind of had to go back and box score check to see like the rally back. It seemed like that was Richie Saunders hitting some big shots in that one, just from skimming through it. Seems like he deserved the credit for that comeback.
Yeah, I mean, it was Arizona at the free throw line. It was just unbelievable turnovers. There were a couple calls that went against Arizona that they did not really handle very well or make the most of. So
BYU had a 3-point attempt to win this game.
They did.
That was blocked by Braden Burries.
Yeah, just kind of unbelievable that it got to that point. I felt very bad because when they were cruising, I had told one of my friends who was just kind of getting into betting. I was like, "Yeah, hammer this. Arizona's better than them. They're going to beat them, and they're going to cover this." So I think he got him at like 3.5 or 4.5. And as this, I was like kind of watching with him as this game was just descending into total madness. It was rough. A very bad beat there on the Arizona side of things.
That was a live bet?
No, they opened at 4.5, and
because I got it at BYU Pick'em.
Yes, by the start of the game, it got to, I think the closing, it was 1.5 to Arizona or 1. So
it was because when I took it, it was probably an hour or two before the game. It was a Pick'em for BYU when I took it.
So it obviously finished that way, but yeah, it's a good win for Arizona nonetheless. On paper, I'm sure they're not thrilled about how it happened, but yeah, it's a huge win for them. And BYU ultimately just couldn't handle the interior game.
In Arizona's backcourt was super impressive in this game, and that was where I thought the weakness was for Arizona was their backcourt. Like, they don't get a lot from outside, obviously, and like that remained the case in this game. But Koa really didn't do much in this game. Like it was the Koa versus AJ was how this thing was built. But this game, the way it played out, was very much not Koa versus AJ. It was Braden Burries and Jaden Bradley absolutely taking this game over. Felt like every time I looked up at the TV, Braden Burries was at the free throw line. So yeah, there was a huge free throw discrepancy in this one too. I don't think it was as I think a lot of them were fouls. I just think BYU had a hard time defending them, and so I don't think it was a poorly officiated game. But yeah, ultimately Arizona holds on, gets the job done here. But yeah, Arizona's backcourt just being able to take this game over and win it to them was the most impressive feat by them in this game for me, because I did not think their backcourt was capable of that kind of effort versus a team of this caliber. I thought Koa would need to have a big game, and he ultimately ends up doing nothing basically, and it was good enough for them to win. It was 29 from Burries and 26 from Bradley were the exact numbers. So yeah, that was I was super impressed by the backcourt effort from Arizona, and if they can get that out of those guys, and that's not even the strength of their team, uh, they're gonna win a national championship if that's what this backcourt is.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that they are just clear cut. It's them and everyone else right now. It feels so. They, it's still very early on, but I think it's fair to say they clinched number 1 overall seed.
Jacob,
I was just gonna say I mean Arizona, they just continue to win. They have just played insane defense all year, and their shooting. I think their shooting trips them up at some point, but they haven't had to. Teams just aren't scoring at will on them, and that's kind of what's carried Arizona thus far. And against BYU, that was no different.
well, let's shift gears a little bit, because we need to play some operation and do some diagnosis and fix an injured compadre of a basketball team, and that's the Purdue Boilermakers. Because since we last came to you, they've unfortunately lost 3 games in a row. Not rubbing it in, Jacob, but this is what we're going to fix Purdue with this discussion here, because we're going to diagnose the issue, and we're going to send this video over to Paint, and we're going to be like, hey, Paint, listen up. This is what's wrong with Purdue. And he's going to watch this tape. It's going to turn around. Purdue's going to win the national championship. That's how this is going to go. So, with that being said, UCLA game was a long time ago. So, don't need to talk about that one. But did just want to mention Mick Cronin. I can't decide with the Mick Cronin stuff if it's funny or if it's annoying. Because it is hilarious, but I'm also like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Where they beat Purdue.
I think he has brain damage or something.
And he just literally gets up at the podium, just bitching about his schedule. And he also said, I had multiple Hall of Fame coaches text me and be like, you guys are playing Purdue tonight? Like, no, they didn't. That didn't happen. Mick made that up. So, yeah, had to mention the Mick Cronin stuff. But you said UCLA took him down, first off. Of note in there, oh shit, Donovan Dent finally looked like who UCLA brought him to UCLA to be. So, shout out to them for that. Saturday, Jacob, you were in attendance. Don't imagine it was a fun time. Watching Keaton Wagler just damn near 50 bomb in Mackey Arena. And Purdue still very much could have won this game.
Yeah, it was literally, we played a great game against Illinois.
50 bombs by Keaton Wagler and still had every chance to win this game.
He literally was pulling up from 35 feet out, however long out, mid-court, Curry range pretty much, and was making literally everything. And then Illinois' big men started shooting like that. No wonder they're the number 1 Ken Palm offensive team. Purdue didn't turn the ball over either. Braden Smith played a great game on Saturday, even through an injury. I got worried for 5 seconds, and I just realized he rolled his ankle. But we had a chance to win, and then for whatever reason, Oscar Clough got called for a hook and hold. I still have questions about that. There was definitely some questionable calls there.
And a big thing for Purdue is I think Matt said something about it in the group chat. TKR had been fucking he was terrible against UCLA, but he was good
against
in this
Illinois
game.
And Indiana. Against UCLA, we should have won UCLA too. That game, that was on Braden Smith. 100%. And then Painter for not closing out and defending Bilodeau the last 3 or 4 possessions. And Braden Smith against UCLA had an atrocious turnover, like with just forcing the ball. And he did the same thing against Indiana. But the Illinois game, like we looked good going into for most of the game. I'd say the thing that lost us the game, honestly, was in the first half. We got up by like 8 or 9 points and let Illinois get it to like a 2-point game. Let me check.
Need to point out as well that Illinois did this without Kyle and Boswell.
They just were like it was like a Carson Edwards type performance for Keaton Wagler. Like literally just pulled up from anywhere and hit anything. Like if Keaton Wagler did not have that, I don't think Illinois wins that game. Like if he misses like 2 less shots, Purdue pulls away from that in that game.
You've yet to mention the fact that what we talked about in the group chat a little bit, that Paint made 0 defensive adjustments against Wagler. And it's like, at some point, if this guy is just killing you, it's like, go and send help. Like, double this guy. Like you cannot, like, let this guy keep getting the ball in his hands when he is killing you.
Like too late by the time they did. And then that's when you saw the Illinois bigs just kind of hanging out at the 3-point line and knocking down everything. I think that was a game that, because Boswell was out, I don't think that it kind of felt as if the game plan going in for Purdue, they had no idea that kind of Wagler nuclear game was possible. I don't think that I think that was on their part. They kind of took some of the pressure off the guards, because if Boswell's playing in that game, I think that's a little bit of a different game plan for them defensively. And yeah, it was one of those things that I thought for sure at halftime they were going to be like, okay, well, they don't really have other scorers who can beat us in isolation, so we're just going to try and cut that off and see what we can do. They did not do that. They were terrified of a lot of the bigs. They really stayed home on Stojakovic. They did not let him. Do anything. Beachish was one of those guys as well who he really didn't get going until the end of the game. So I do think defensively that was where my biggest issue with Purdue was, because I think offensively they kind of unlocked the Illinois defense enough, it felt like, where they could get sustainable buckets, or at least Braden Smith was going to get the team open shots. I think that, one of the things they really have to look in the mirror at kind of harsh now is like, can we close games with Oscar Clough going forward now, because he was particularly bad on the defensive side of things for them, both against Indiana and against Illinois. So I think that's one area where they're going to have to really look inward and be like, because they've already kind of phased out Fletcher Lawyer out of the crunch time rotation for them. So they're kind of running out of guys that they can kind of trust on the floor on defense. So I think that's the biggest problem with them right now. I think offensively they're always going to be a viable threat because the point guard's so good and so high level, and he can attract a ton of attention and get guys open shots. They're just going to have to hit the shots. But still, when that's not there, like, it was not a great Braden Smith game against Indiana. TKR played a really good game, but they kind of wasted the game. Goodness.
I have Miami -9.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. ACC Network, everyone, for those who aren't watching. But
I like how you knew immediately what I was reacting about.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's on one of the screens. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. But no.
It's funny you mentioned. It's funny you mentioned Lawyer. He is having the worst slump of his career right now. Like,
it's kind of wild. Yeah, he was like one of the core members of the team that went to the national championship game. And since that season, he's just been like absent entirely.
He is not. The last 2 months, he is not hit threes at his normal rate. Like start of the year, he looked good.
I made 2 bets tonight, and they both pushed. I had Tennessee -1 and Miami -9. Push. Like
I think it's time for Painter to start considering switching some stuff up in the starting lineup. Like it's at that point of the season. Like it's kind of just a typical Painter January. Like he trusts his guy, like his core starters, way too much sometimes. Like that's Painter's flaw. He believes too much in his player, like, and is hesitant to make adjustments. So I really think maybe start Omer Meyer or Jakari Harris, one of the two, put them in the game. Maybe have Lawyer as that sixth man off the bench. The Clough switches, I think that's just a schematic thing. Teams are trying to find that. I really think they need to, when Clough's in the game, just like make sure he's not getting switched. Like keep him on the big man. Keep him on the 5, like at all times.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, it's really going to show up when these teams have bigs who can shoot and stretch the floor the way Illinois has. Not every team has that. So in those games, I think they'll be okay. But yeah, I think that they have some issues in terms of just the caliber of athlete is not good enough, particularly on the defensive end for them. That's got to change going forward in the future. And, you know, offensively, I don't think Purdue's ever, I mean, they've certainly had some, you know, questionable games, questionable NCAA tournament exits where the offense kind of abandoned them at the worst possible time. But yeah, I think overall that's probably where I would start is, you know, like you're not getting the best athletes you can in the building, which is affecting you on defense. And I would say in terms of, you know, it's kind of masked itself because Purdue's been so good with having the big guy. They've always had like a Zach Edey, Isaac Haas type of presence. And like going back to like Jawan Johnson, they've had that kind of player. But that's not something they really have to lean on for this year. So I think it's just a lot of stuff just kind of compiling. And Illinois is not a bum team. They are soft as shit, and they do not defend well, but they certainly can score with anyone. I'll give them that. So, yeah, I wouldn't full-on panic. I think the Indiana game was a bigger, like, oh shit kind of moment than the Illinois game was.
I feel like that's just us being in our own heads. The turnovers, if we did not turn the ball over like we did, I think we win that game easily by 5-6 points. Like, it's a road game. It's not at Indiana. It's never going to be easy, but in a rivalry, you know. But that was just us getting in our own heads and letting Indiana get whatever look they wanted.
Yeah, and, you know, that was, you know, Indiana really pulled out all the stops for that game in terms of, like having Sig and the football team there. That was a pretty charged atmosphere. But, you know, I mean, Purdue will have opportunities to kind of make that right. They got Nebraska soon. I think that's a
well, yeah, they get Maryland and Oregon their next 2.
Yeah.
So like you got 2 tune-ups coming up to.
Yeah, I mean, just some get right games. Hopefully that one guy from Maryland don't go off for like 46.
Yeah, so you know, I don't think it's been good enough for Purdue. I don't think it's been good enough for Painter. I think it'll be interesting to see like how much of a leash, not a leash, but like he obviously has pretty good job security, but like how much until the fan base is kind of like not good enough. Like we thought we were going to turn a corner after making the Final Four and going to the national championship game. We haven't really yet. So I'm not sure where, like, and if DeVries is a hit at Indiana, if McCollum's a hit at Iowa, I think there will be, and you see Nebraska coming up. I think it's going to be a situation where I'm not sure if I'm not saying Matt Painter will be like fired this year or anything, but one of those situations where they're going to kind of look around and be like, this is not good enough, and I think they're going to have to start asking questions about like, is our NIL good enough? Is our vision for the program good enough here? Like, is our philosophy for how we acquire players, the kind of players that we acquire, is that good enough? And ultimately, that will have to be answered with the head coach. So, I think it's going to be an interesting few weeks ahead for Purdue if they drop one of these coming games. I think those kind of voices will be a little louder, especially when you consider, it's not a talentless roster. And by the sound of it, they have invested quite a bit of money in the team, but they just haven't gotten the high level results I think that they were expecting this year.
It's funny you mention like I was kind of like being OCD. I was like, we need one more athletic wing after losing Colvin and Heidi, and it didn't come. I mean, Meyer isn't really athletic. He's good. He's a physical presence, but it's kind of like he's not a super fast wing, But like I'd say our issue, it's just kind of I'd say if the season continues like it's going, I think Painter's really got to consider making some staff changes. Maybe tell Paul Lusk or Terry Johnson, hey, it's time to move on, But like all things considered, Purdue is still the number 8 Ken Palm team. So like
I was about to say, this seems like a lot of funeral talk. Like,
yeah,
this is still a really talented team. Like,
the thing it's just, and another thing to mention is against USC, the game previous to UCLA, it was kind of like the IU game, but we won it. Just a lot of uneven play. And then Braden Smith banged knees with a USC player twice. So Braden Smith's kind of been banged up as well. And then he rolled his ankle on Saturday against Illinois. So he's been playing good, but he's kind of been feeling the wear as well. So maybe that has a little bit to do with it, but at least on the defensive end, Painter's got to figure some stuff out.
The thing that's gonna work in Purdue's favor, that like we know we hear about over and over again, that like the key to making deep runs in this sport and winning is experience, and this is a really experienced roster. This is a coaching staff that's been there before, and it's like if you're a fan, like you have to trust this staff to make the adjustments they need to make. This is a staff that went to a national championship 2 years ago. Like they went to a Sweet 16 last year, in a year that was kind of like a reset year for the program. And they come in this year, like this team still has a ton of experience. It's still a great staff. Like they're gonna figure it out. Like Purdue will be there in March. Like they will finish in the upper echelon of the Big Ten. Like they'll probably make a deep run in Indianapolis. Like they'll make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. Like they're gonna be okay. Like I'm not overly concerned from an outsider perspective. I'm not overly concerned about Purdue. They're still a team I expect firmly to be in the thick of this thing when it comes down to it.
Like thick of it, and is this also? I'm just asking in a situation of like where their expectations were before the season. This is not good enough, obviously. So I think that's mostly where you hear, obviously, what you described as funeral talk coming in, where that's where I think the questions are fair. And I think it's one of those like, well,
they're not good enough to what? To win a national championship
this year?
Or like you said, they're not good enough. Like good enough for what?
No,
like
I don't think they are good enough to win a national championship or make a Final Four this year. I mean, would anyone like?
If we play like we did against Alabama and Texas Tech, we are certainly good enough to make the Final Four.
They could.
Just from a roster perspective, like they are good enough.
Yeah.
Like they need to make some adjustments, but
well, they are not on defense. They can't like in the crunch time of a game where they like need to get a stop. I do not think they have the players on that end to like get a stop when they need a stop, or like, do you have a really trusted shooter like outside? Like if Braden Smith is going to be in a situation where he's just going to be assist farming for everyone, which is where he's really effective at doing, like, who is the player who you're just like, that guy, yeah, he's going to knock him down when we need it? Because I think that's like the question where like that's the stuff that they need to get organized. Like teams don't go to Final Fours who just have like glaring like starters where they're just like, yeah, we can put this guy in pick and roll hell and like we got an easy point here. Or like I think that's where they need to like iron out that possession. Is like, is the answer just going bigger the whole time? Is the answer going smaller? Like what is the best course of action for them? I think that's what they like need to figure out. And right now they are not there. They were there in the beginning of the season. That some of the stuff has worked for them.
I think the answer is going to be bigger because it's like not every team you play is going to have the offensive firepower that Illinois does. And not a lot of teams are going to have the size to compete with Purdue. If Purdue goes big on that end, like most teams they play, other than a couple handful of teams with elite front courts. Like if they just go bigger on everybody, like there's not a lot of teams that have that size and that'll be able to handle that.
Yeah, I think that's one area that they're going to have to consider. I mean, it's different. Just like some of these teams, like they were really effective in the beginning of the season. Now there's film out on them, and now everyone knows the soft spots where to attack these teams. I think they just need to really, really iron out, like, hey, what's our rotation going to be in the end of these games here? How can we protect some of our defensive liabilities? And just really get into a situation where they can just at the end of these games where they really have, that's where they've lost some of these games, is at the very end of them. That's kind of one of the areas, like how can we just batten it down in this area? Like how can we close games better, which their last three, they just to this point have yet to do that. They're just going to need to make some changes on that end.
Just stop with the sloppy turnovers. Like you got to run smart ball movement. Like we just kind of get that crazy, putting it all on Braden Smith when other players should come and help out. I know I would trust CJ Cox in the moment to take a shot too over with Braden Smith and TKR. I think he's that third option at this point in the season.
Yeah, so that certainly could be. They'll have some opportunities here to kind of get themselves right here going forward. But yeah, this version of them, I don't see sticking around very long. They'll just have to get themselves back to kind of what they were in the beginning of the year.
Just get out of that mental angle. Maybe it's time for Braden Smith to stop the podcast and focus on ball.
I was waiting for that to get brought up here. Yeah.
Well, the last game I wanted to bring up, like we'll bounce through some results, but like the last game I wanted to bring up, talk about, break down a little bit of all like the big ones we have to discuss from the last few days that I feel like needs to be discussed is Texas Tech Houston on Saturday. And this is another one where like in a losing effort, Kingston Flemings drops 42 points. Give me 1 second. Yeah, you guys take it away in a second. But Kingston Flemings drops 42 points in a loss. What I wanted to say about that is that Kingston Flemings is a guy, like a freshman who came into this season. I've like not a ton of hype, but I feel like has played his way into firmly being a top 5 pick and that effort on the road in Lubbock was insane on Saturday. But Texas Tech able to get the win. JT Toppin was the guy. Texas Tech paid him a lot of money to come back and be this year. Tech defends home court, wins 90 to 86 against Houston on Saturday. So thoughts on that one?
Just what an impressive performance by Texas Tech. They've had their wins over Duke and Houston just from where they were at the start of the season to now. They've really battled themselves back in to the national discussion. And that game against Houston, I mean, to win when a player like Kingston Flemings goes for 42, Manuel Sharp goes for 20. JT Toppin had a great game, 31 and 12 from the field. Just kind of a big performance for Texas Tech. I didn't get to watch much of it, of course, because I was at the Purdue-Illinois game. But just a big win all around for Texas Tech.
Yeah, and we mentioned on Saturday we were talking in the group chat about it, where this is just one of those matchups where they match up well with Houston, and they always play them tough. And this was wanted to make so they Texas Tech scored 55 on Houston in the first half, and that was the most points that any of Sampson's Houston teams have ever given up in any half. Was that 55 in the first half to Texas Tech on Saturday. So for Texas Tech to come out with that onslaught, get the lead at halftime, and then the game slowed down a lot, and Houston was able to get it dialed down more into the pace they wanted in the second half. But Tech was able to hold on here. But like I said, I mentioned him on Saturday, and Kingston Flemings was one of my biggest takeaways in this game, where that dude has just been fucking awesome this year. And all the great guards we've seen come through Houston, and the guys we've seen on that team, Kingston Flemings might very well end up being just pure, if we're talking about NBA talent and just pure scorer, Kingston Flemings is probably has a chance to go down as the best player Sampson has had at Houston. Is that crazy to say at this point? Because he's 6'4", he can shoot it out of the gym. He is blown up this year. Like I said, he didn't come into the year with a ton of hype, expected to be the face of that team, and he's completely taken over that team where he is the number one option. And I think if he's not already, by the time the season's up, he's firmly and he's big too. He's 6'4". He can shoot it from anywhere. He's athletic as hell. That guy's gonna be a top 5 pick. And I think we're gonna look back, and it's if we're like I said, if we're just talking about pure as an athlete, as a player, what they go on to do in the NBA, I think there's a real chance we're gonna look back wow, is this Houston the best Houston team? Are they gonna win a national championship this year? Who knows? They haven't looked that level. They lost this game, but Flemings might be the best player we've seen Sampson have at Houston.
Yeah, he's in that discussion for sure, and he didn't start the year that way. They kind of had him in, Sampson, for one, has not had guards who can do what he does. They had Jamal Shedd, who is probably the next closest equivalent, but Jamal Shedd was they had him really make his money on the defensive end first. Was not a great shooter, but he, could get to his spots, and he was a decent scorer. Yeah, and Fleming started the season in a kind of modest scorer's role. Now he has taken that to another level. They have completely handed over their offense to him, and they did not do that earlier in the season. This is a totally different Houston team now, and it's largely because of him. And they started the season kind of really wanting to get Uzan going, really wanted to get Sharp going, and they kind of had the answer the whole time, which they finally seem to have found. And now Houston's incorporating a lot of new stuff offensively that they were not doing in the beginning of the season because of his skill set as a scorer. So it's really fun to watch how he's kind of grown into that role. And as for that game the other night when they played Texas Tech, Texas Tech has their number. They've had it ever since McCasland's been there. And, they beat them last year in a game where Toppin fouled out in the first half. They beat him in overtime, and they still put up, I believe, 88 on them. And then, that game, they put up 55 in the first half, which is insane, and then end up winning that game. But, can't say enough about the toughness of that Texas Tech team. As you said, they have some pretty quality wins under their belt. Still not sure. That team just kind of revolves around like which Kristen Anderson are we getting kind of thing, because Toppin always shows up. But yeah, it's that conference. I think the Big 12 is the best conference of college basketball this year. Iowa State's 8th in the country, and they're 4th or 5th in the league. That those teams just bring it every night. Just physicality and athleticism off the charts, and all those teams defend for the most part, or at least have like one really, really high level scorer on their team. So in that case, it's Fleming's, and his NBA future is very, very bright, especially if he can provide the same kind of level of defense that he's giving Houston now. He will have a really long NBA career. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's easy to say right now that he will probably end up being the best player Sampson's had at Houston, because they've really never had these kind of guys. They've never recruited one and done players. This is the first year they've really kind of dove into that. So,
well, and I don't think Fleming's came in like fully expected to be a one and done.
I think
correct me if I'm wrong.
It wasn't like as much of a slam dunk as I think the top of the class is so good, as we talked about. I don't think he was supposed to be this level of scoring. But he was a high recruit. I think he and Seneca are the two highest recruits that Houston's ever had under Sampson. They were how they were going to fit in, because that team's a bunch of grown ass men, was kind of going to be the question coming in. But he's just really, really smooth, really savvy player. Just like gets to his spots, draws contact at a really high level, can draw fouls at a high level. He just does everything well. And if you're an NBA team, that's a player who, like, no one there's no red flags. There's just no like red flags to him or like anything. So, and I think it says a lot about him that he's willing to go play college basketball at Houston, where the practices are literally like a war zone, and it's just such intensity that is required to play there that not a lot of guys in his position would do it. And have a lot of respect that he's willing to go play his college basketball for that kind of program.
Absolutely. Well, we can take about another 15 minutes or so and just bang through some of these games from the last few days and anything you guys want to touch on. I'm trying to wrap this thing up in about 15, 20 more minutes. I'll just start kind of like rattling off some of these games, give any thoughts if I have them. But the first game that I selfishly wanted to mention, Saturday, Auburn got its first win in Gainesville in 30 years, 76-67 over Florida. A game full stop. I thought we were going to get fucking smoked the way we played against some of these teams with size this year, but just wanted to tip my hat, Stephen Pearl. Like, that was the best game plan I've seen Auburn play this year. Some of the sets they ran in this game were incredible. Like, they didn't get scared of Florida's size, and they just completely attacked the bigs and pounded them and like took it to them. Like I said, ran some of the best sets I've seen them run all year. Where there's times this offense just gets so like spastic. I'm like, what are we running? And like they clearly came into this game. They were like, we're going at them. Like we're not running away from it. Um, like this was like we made 5 3-pointers in this game, so this wasn't like we knew we were gonna have to take it to these bigs to beat them, and completely just Hauk ended up going for 27 here and had a big game, but they went like they took it to Hauk in the first half. Like he was not great in the first half. Um, they held Condon to a single point in this game. Florida's backcourt was pretty terrible, like it's been the whole year. Xavier Lee actually only played 15 minutes in this game. Um, Seems like Golden might be pulling the plug on that. Fland was terrible. But yeah, this was like best game I've seen Auburn play all year. Like Stephen Pearl really needed a signature win to hang his hat on, and we kind of had the whole discussion when Bruce retired on if it was the right hire for Auburn, like if he was ready. And I'm just saying, a team that lost 10 seniors from last year and brought back one returning player from last year, and for him to have never been a head coach, inherit this team a month before the year, it's now beaten 3 national championship head coaches, 5 Final Four head coaches, Will Wade in there too. So, like, Stephen Pearl putting together and beat Sean Miller tonight as we speak. So, Stephen Pearl putting together, like, I think a super impressive year one. Like, whatever anybody's expectations were for this team, like, I think he's done a pretty damn good job. And there's been some adversity, but they're getting it done. And I'm proud of my ball coach, and I wanted to tip the hat to him and bring up that game. If either of you have thoughts on that one, but Florida bounced back in a big way tonight as well. I do need to mention.
And Auburn got another win tonight over Texas.
Yep.
So they're right now.
Texas
They are
still fouling entirely too, because it was the same story tonight as that Sean Miller quote from last week. I think Keyshawn Hall shot 18 free throws tonight.
Goodness.
Yeah, Matt, you've been a bit of a Stephen Pearl critic.
Good first year for Stephen Pearl so far, at least.
I am definitely a critic of how he came to the job. He's done a nice job with the team. It's kind of one of those things like you never really know how it's going to age until like year 2 or year 3. But certainly has. I would say he's coached to or above the expectations of what was expected by Auburn. If you could correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So ultimately, it seems as if the fan base is happy with him and the job he's done. So,
well, he did something Bruce never did at Auburn on Saturday, and that's win a game in Gainesville. So he's already checking boxes that even Bruce didn't check.
Very true.
So yeah, I was very excited about that one. Wanted to make sure to mention it. Kentucky just got slaughtered yesterday. So the Mark Pope experience. It seemed like they were turning things around for a few games there, and then
they were. Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
like,
they just
ESPN did a huge thing. They're like, "Yep, Kentucky's back. This is huge. They've won like 8 in a row or whatever, and here we are." And like, not so fast. And man, the Kentucky fans at large are not taking it well. They are some hilarious tweets from the Kentucky fan community. Yeah, they're not pleased with the job that has been done with their program. And that was a situation where Vanderbilt was missing guys. And like still, who they have not looked like a great defensive team. They look like 2015 Kentucky playing defense against them. the other night. So yeah, that was a forgettable one for sure. And some of the clips in that one. This is why people think that guys are point shaving. Like the one inbound play. I don't know if you guys saw where literally was like OA was like what? It's like okay, yeah, just tell me you had Vandy -6.5 without telling me you had Vandy -6.5. So yeah, wild stuff there.
Mac, and if you can summarize this one a little bit, because I'm ready to wrap this. I'm ready to go about another 10 minutes and wrap it up. But we're talking about Saturday scores, so 2 games to bring up, and really just the last couple of weeks as a whole. Thoughts on your Huskies playing some close games lately, looking a little bit wobbly. Caravan has been horrible. Not sure what's going on there with him, but you know, winning still number 2 in the country. Thoughts on your Huskies and where things stand for them.
It's definitely been a trip offensively. They've not been great there. They've been better than they were in the beginning of the season. They've improved quite a few things. They've had some good solo ball games over that stretch. However, it has not been good enough, I would say. They've played in some pretty close games, which should not be close games. I understand a lot of people want to chalk it up to like Providence's big rivalry and everything else, which it very much is. But that being said, they should be beating the brakes off of Providence, and they should be hammering some of these teams.
And Nova.
Yeah, and I think defense is good. Defense has been carrying them all season long. They have been without Braylon Mullins. He did not play due to a concussion the other night. But yeah, as you said, Caravan needs to. He was pretty bad last year shooting. That has kind of carried over. So they are going to need a lot more from him. They have really yet to play with their full complement of players, and that's kind of affected some things, but they definitely need to get the offense going. That's what's going to ultimately take them from a team that should make a Final Four to a team that should win a national championship. So they're going to need they're really good situationally. Still, they're the best team in the country in situational basketball later on in these games. But they just need to, over the course of the full game, just be better offensively. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, they have just been kind of camping out, waiting for Arizona to slip up, and they haven't. And you could still definitely make the argument had Arizona lost at BYU, should they still be the number 1 team with 1 loss because they beat UConn head to head. So I think that would be more than fair. So yeah, I think at this point they're just kind of not in survival mode, but they definitely should get a 1 seed. And yeah, so things are still good there, but they definitely need to be better.
I'm just going to rattle off some results real quick. If you guys want to jump in and mention anything about the games. But UNC went into Charlottesville, got a big win on Saturday. Came back from a pretty big deficit in the first half, and Caleb Wilson continues to look awesome. So 85-80 the final there. Big win for the Tar Heels and Hubert Davis. And Rick Pitino got his 900th win of his coaching career against his son. By the way, I was asking on Saturday. I never looked it up. Matt, you would know. When we got his 900th win, is that subtracting the vacated wins from Louisville?
I think it is, yeah.
Okay. So really already over 900, but
yeah.
900. Beat his son for it. Fun game there. So yeah, father beat son in that one on Saturday, and I guess it's fake 900, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
official
it's not,
900.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, how many of those
this is
were
so stupid. Yeah, like I don't know what he. Yeah, I'd have to check like what his like actual. But I think I heard Seth Davis say that it was including the. But yeah, I don't know. Like, does anybody care at this point? Like, seriously, like.
AJ DeBansta went for 43 in the Holy War on Saturday, and BYU got a 91-78 win over Utah. Let's see. Baylor continues to look horrible. Sorry, Juve. They lost to TCU on Saturday. They can't defend anybody.
No, they cannot. It's bad.
Gonzaga got a tight win in the kennel over San Francisco, hung on 1-2. We mentioned Tennessee beating Bama on Saturday. Even with NBA players on Alabama's roster, was not a problem for the Volunteers. They were able to get a win. Let's see. Any other big ones from Saturday that I didn't mention that you guys wanted to mention?
There's not any big game. Well,
Saturday was a very weird slate, by the way, with like all the weather reschedules and stuff. It was a loaded
All
early
the games
slate.
were early. Yeah.
I know. Like the first game was Kentucky, Ole Miss, and then you had Mercer and Wofford at 11. That was a big game in the SoCon. Wofford got revenge on Mercer.
Monday, by the way, I just wanted Duke beat Louisville 83-52. Man, Mikel Brown came back and he was horrible in this game. They might have brought him
to come back. Clearly,
yeah, they might have brought him back.
They did the full Bakir and Red River game. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think of that analogy till now, but that was he was atrocious in this game. Like this thing was over before it even started. Yeah, that was brutal. 1 for 13 from the field for him, 7 points. Oof. And they kept it. He played 34 minutes. They kept him out there. They were like, kind of crazy. Like Shire owns Pat Kelsey. Like Louisville has not been competitive in these games with Duke the last couple years.
The first time, and then they just got warped in the second half of the first game, and then forget about it. The one at Cameron, just a nightmare for them.
Miami of Ohio won another close one, but stayed undefeated last night against UMass.
They did, and it was a real segment. That is my background screen that they were talking about the national championship chances of Miami, Ohio. So that was fun.
Nice, very nice.
I'll tell you what, Miami of Ohio and Kent State played one of the best games last.
They did, yeah.
That was
just
UMass played them tough. Yeah, they're
real quick. Like and Baylor lost again tonight. I didn't even see that till now. But real quick, if Miami of Ohio runs the table like regular season MAC tournament, what's the highest we think they can actually get on the seed line? Because this is I remember the Obi Toppin Dayton team, but they actually played some real non-conference games. And they were undefeated, correct? And they were tracking to get a 1 seed.
Is a little higher level, I would say, than what the MAC is. And they obviously had the Obi Toppin factor. Wichita State got the 1 seed for going undefeated, but they had multiple NBA players on that roster and were in the Final Four the year before. So
I could see
3 or 4.
Mm-hmm. I could see I know I'd say they're comparable to a higher level Missouri Valley Conference team some of these years, like a Northern Iowa or someone like that. Not Wichita State at their top, but a Wichita State.
So you said 3 seeds.
Drake was 30-3 last year, I think, and they got 11. I think they got 11 seed. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. There's no way if I were seeding, I would be you will get your 6 seed and you will like it kind of thing, because there's no way I'm giving them a 3 or 4, but
5 or 6
I can see them going that high. Yeah.
Or maybe Murray State.
Yeah. Murray State, the 1 year they were undefeated, that was Isaiah Cannon was there. Mm-hmm. He played in the NBA. That was Buzz. No, that wasn't Buzz Williamson. That was
Iowa State coach.
Yeah, Steve Prom.
No.
Yeah, so no, Otts was at he was
South Dakota State. Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't know. I don't see any way. Like, it's a fun team. They're very fun to watch, and they score a ton of points. But like, my gosh, they are just asking to get beat in some of these games. Um, so yeah, the minute they fall out of like, if they lose a game, they're heading for like probably a double-digit seed.
Shout out St. Louis too.
The
Oh
Billikens.
yeah,
Billikens. They
and
are.
they're doing this in a higher level league for sure. So
They
yeah,
look like a dangerous team.
yeah, they are.
But they did have a close game tonight against George
Shout out
Washington.
Josh Sheart's done a very good job with that program.
Robbie Avila.
Yeah, had the game winner.
All right, I'm about ready to go to bed, but I'll run through just a couple results from tonight, and then we will call it a show. But Tennessee went to Athens and got a win in overtime against Georgia. So
850 for Rick Barnes.
Yep. So seems like they were wobbly after that Houston game, but it seems like Barnes is getting them back on the right track. And then obviously Houston TCU we were just watching. Kingston Flemings dropped 25 again, and Houston got the win over TCU. And Utah State got another big win. They continue to look good, and anything else from tonight, the last couple nights, or anything that I haven't mentioned that you guys wanted to bring up? If so, floor is yours, obviously, to bring it up. But I think I about covered all the big games, big stories.
Yeah, I think that's about everything. You'll see NBA Scout City, the Scout Bowl, coming up with Darren Peterson advancing in, assuming Darren Peterson will play. So we'll see what happens. They're going to go for like 40 each, probably, I would imagine.
By the way, the Tang Gang is like, I thought, like in the Octagon of Doom without Peterson, like Kansas State was live in that game, and they got
Kansas State
like
was barely
bombarded.
Utah at the Octagon. They couldn't and Utah is one of the worst teams in Division I. So like, it's just no. Kansas State train. The Tang Gang feels like a long while ago since we were doing
Marquise Noel.
making the Elite Eight and doing the clapping.
The King of the Garden.
Yeah. So that is but they'll always have that season.
Well, that should about be a wrap. Oh, go ahead, Jacob.
I did have one more thing, just slightly off topic. The NCAA bracketology, the region right now, the matchup. It has Purdue and ETSU playing in Greenville, South Carolina.
The Jacob Bowl.
Yeah, I would be 100% going to that game. And then the other game in that regional is UNC Miami of Ohio.
What seed does it have Purdue in?
A 3 seed right now.
Has Painter gotten beat by a 14 before? Are we still?
Yeah.
North Texas, right?
No. North Texas. I think North Texas was a 13 seed.
I thought they were also.
Little Rock was a 12, and St. Peter's was a 15.
Are you sure North Texas wasn't a 14?
No, I could
have sworn they were 13, but I could be wrong. That was a cloudy tournament for sure.
Yeah, I didn't expect to do much in that tournament anyway.
But that could be an opportunity for Painter to master the double-digit seeds of everyone, and what an opportunity for ETSU to be the one to do it if they do.
Will be a fun weekend to go to that game if that happens for Jacob. Make sure you don't have any weddings to attend that weekend, or otherwise might not be able to make it. So anyway, that should about do it though. We'll call it a night. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Love getting back on here with you guys. Try to shoot for. Well, we got the Clash this weekend. I don't know what's going to happen with that snow up in Winston-Salem. So stay tuned for next show. TBD. Because the weather looks terrible up in the Clash this weekend, so I have no idea if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but I have tickets and I'll be there whenever they race it. So that's all I know. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you guys for hopping on here, and make sure you subscribe Sectator Media on YouTube, follow Sectator Media on Twitter, follow One Shining Recap, give us a like, retweet, all that good stuff, and we'll be back at it. Till then, see ya.